Hey, welcome back. Let's discover everything in Belurat. Timestamps are available if you want to skip around. Let's go. Up these stairs is going to be our first grace, the Tower Settlement side of Grace, and we're going to be coming back to this grace pretty often. In this room, we're going to find a door that is barred from the other side. We'll be unlocking this later on in the video. Down into the sewers is going to be another locked gate. Make note of this area, we will be coming back here once we get the key. This door is also locked. Another door we're going to come back to later in the video. This might be your first time facing a Horn Knight. They're pretty difficult enemies, and this one doesn't guarantee a drop, so you can just run past it if you like. However, we have farmed this guy for its armor, and the armor is actually pretty good. We're about to fight an invader, and we typically like to approach invaders with shield crash. It tends to be the easiest way to take them out, so if you're having a tough time taking this one out, this might be a good option for you. If you want to obtain the bone bow, you can just run past them and loot it really quickly. You don't have to kill these scorpions. Before we continue, we're going to unlock an access point to the Tower Settlement side of Grace down this lift. Try to kill this guy holding the urn as fast as you can. If you let them run away, they'll disappear, kind of like how the scarabs do in the base game. This horned warrior with the two-handed sword is a little bit more difficult to fight than the one that dual-wield swords, in my opinion. He doesn't guarantee a drop, so you can just run past him if you'd like. To be honest, there's nothing really special down here, so you can just skip this entire segment if you'd like. After you clear these guys out around the tree, don't forget to loot the revered spirit ash next to the statue. After I entered this area, I picked a horrible time to go AFK and I ended up getting killed. These guys don't mess around, but luckily we get a Stake of America here, so it's all good. This guy is also optional, so you can at least try to run past this one if you want to. Alright, so at this point we get to the last grace that sits you right in front of the final boss, but we're going to unlock a couple things before we get to that last part. To start, we're going to go back to the small private altar side of grace so that we can unlock the storage room. In here we're going to find an NPC, but we're not going to be covering any quest lines in this video. And I know this might be a storage room, but we couldn't find any items in the storage room. Sorry. Here we're going to go back to the tower settlement side of Grace. We still need to obtain the key in order to get past the gate in the sewers. Now that we have the key, back to the tower settlement side of Grace once again, and this time head east so that we can go back down to the sewers. Down here there's going to be a somewhat secret boss and a couple weapon items as well. boss seems very similar to the original one that's found in the base game. It has the same grab animation and has a similar moveset. If it's anything like the counterpart in the base game, then it's probably going to be weak to fire, and having some sort of answer for mitigating poison damage is probably key. I use a heal over time spell that just kind of offsets the constant damage from poison. Probably the most important thing to avoid here is going to be their grab. We're on the max difficulty here, and that means that the grabs are typically all one-hit KOs, but I'm not sure if that's the case for the lower difficulty runs. After defeating the boss, we're going to head back to where we first entered this area and head right instead of left. You're going to notice a ladder that heads back up to the castle, and this is going to be that final access point that leads you back to the Tower Settlement side of Grace. This was the barred door that was right next to it. However, there's two more things that we still want to grab down here before we head to the last boss. Take out this horned warrior that's in the corner, and he will drop his sword. And then the last thing we're going to want to grab down here is the Poisoned Hand, which is actually going to be a fist weapon. Alright, and now it's time for the boss.
O horn-decked beast from higher sphere delivered, take root inside the tower sculpted keepers, and perched within, we beg of thee, rise. Cruelty, woe, and those who plague the tower. Cleanse away the strumpet
We're going to be taking on more comprehensive boss guides later on, but for now we're just going to be running through this quickly. This boss doesn't have very many delayed strikes, so a lot of the melee moves are very easy to dodge. For some reason he didn't do it when I fought him this time, but he typically will stand upright and start spinning around and spewing out dust. You're definitely going to want to give him some space when he does that. At around 75%, he will go into what looks like a second phase, where he starts using lightning. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. Keep in mind that Freya does a lot of stance damage, so if you're going in there with an equally strong amount of stance damage, you're probably going to be critting this boss constantly. At a certain point, the boss goes into what seems to be a third phase, where he switches from lightning to frost. Most of his frost attacks are in a frontal cone, so if you stay behind him for this, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Always make sure to take advantage of the stance breaks. When he goes down, you can perform a crit by attacking at the front of his head. This boss is unique in that it drops a remembrance but also a lootable item on the ground, which is a very good helmet. It gives you 4 dex and 4 strength, and it looks absolutely ridiculous, which I love. After you down the boss, you can run directly east from the site of grace, and we're going to be going up to an area that is technically locked until later on, but you can still loot a couple items before you unlock that area, so I will be including that in this guide. This castle is unlocked later in the storyline. Before I closed out, I wanted to check on what this NPC does after you beat the boss. After I checked to see if she had new dialogue, she seems to just be kind of tired. Once we play through, we're going to be covering more quest lines, and if this has one, we'll be throwing this into the mix as well. If you enjoyed this guided walkthrough, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.